When I found this copy of this record, there was none online. I like to call them ungoogleables. Yeah, so anybody out there that knows about this record, let me know. All right, what do you got?
All right, I'm going to make a hard shift to 90s British singer-songwriters. And back in 91, I declared this is the best album of 91. And then by the end of the decade, I said this is the best album of the 90s.
I don't remember the name of the artist or the title or any lyrics, and I recorded myself going, he was like, oh yeah, that's Jimmy Krause. That's the Ballad of Lummox. Jimmy, I can tell, like, as soon as I heard you moaning.
Yeah, he had that tangible shit going on.
Wow. Where did you find this?
I have no fucking clue. I buy a lot of records. Industry standard, if you see a peacock chair, you know what a peacock chair is? The Al Green chair.
Yeah, right.
If you see that on a record, buy it immediately. Right? I had to make this. I've only ever touched a real copy once. Yeah, how much is out there?
Yeah,
it's never ending.
It never ends. Like,
that's the thing I love about music.
So I don't even know which camera to look at. I think I'm gonna look at this one to start it out. Yes, we have 3 cameras, but it's fine. You guys don't need to look at any cameras. Pretend like nothing's here. I'm the only one that's gonna like look at a camera and make myself look weird or something. So to start it all out here, this is the Pieces of Vinyl podcast, or at least one of the first Pieces of Vinyl podcasts. I brought Max Ochester here with me because Max is one of my favorite guys in the Philly area. He and I have a lot of similar tastes with vinyl records, and he decided that we should come here to Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, to Forever Changes, where Shawn Cephas is the owner, and this place is pretty awesome. So we're gonna come back here again in the future, so please make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can see a full featurette on Shawn and this record shop. But we also have another guest here today, and that is the guitar player and one of the songwriters from Ron and the Hip Tones. We have Doug O'Donnell here, and he's also a good friend of all of ours, and so we are here today talking about records, obviously, because we're at a record store, and that's what you do when you're at a record store. You talk about records. Yeah, where is the Instagram for
Forever.changes.
Forever.changes?
Yeah.
Nice. So this is for the local folks at Phoenixville or in the Philadelphia area. Come out here to Main Street, get some beer, and come chill with Shawn and hang out here. This place is awesome. So, and I'll be talking more about this place in the future too, and we'll hit it up here as well. But Max had the idea today. Tell us about what we're getting into.
I think the idea just was, let's talk about records. We have 3 records apiece, so we all kind of, records that made us feel some sort of way at some time. And we'll talk a little bit about it.
We will definitely supply the links to a lot of these songs, especially if there's like YouTube links for some of these in the description. If not, I will upload some things that I rip off illegally, because that's what we do nowadays. All right, great. Nice. Oh, we get to use a sound burger. Oh, sweet.
Anybody hungry?
You have one. You have a box for it right here too, right? So Shawn just went out to his car and went and got his sound burger for us. So we get to use an Audio-Technica sound burger. He also sells them at his shop. So if you're ever in Phoenixville, you can buy one of these from him. Shawn is going to start us out.
Also, but I went by, and I didn't do this on purpose, but there's 30 years between each of these records. So I'm a huge jazz fan, like huge, insane jazz fan. Nice jazz section in the back. My favorite Miles album is Miles Smiles by the Second Quintet, Command 65. The Second Quintet consists of Miles with Wayne Shorter on tenor, Herbie Hancock on piano, Ron Carter on bass, and Tony Williams on drums. And Miles is probably in his 40s. Well, he was in his 40s at this point. And he had already reinvented jazz 4 or 5 times over. He left Charlie Parker's group in 49, I believe. And his first group after that was the Nonettes that became the Cool group. And from there on in, he just kept creating subgenres and genres of jazz and music. And at this point, he was already a legend. And like any great artist, he was like, I want another challenge. So he found the four of the, if not the most talented young jazz artists at the time, and formed the Second Quintet. Tony Williams, I think, was 17 or 18 when the group started in '64, and Wayne Shorter was the songwriter that everyone wanted their hands on. He was a member of Art Blakey's group, and Miles famously stole him from Art Blakey. And So this is almost all the songs on here are either by Wayne Shorter or Herbie Hancock. It's just that classic, the elder statesman just like wants to keep things fresh and it's like, what do these young guys have to say? And what I love about this record, it is so equal parts challenging and soulful, and in not a soulful way. It's like kind of like soulful in the sense of like you feel what's happening, but it in no way does it connect with soul, what we would think of as soul music at all. There's a really great box set of the sessions of for this group, and it's very interesting to hear them like very diligently working out. Like it's not a Kind of Blue thing where it's like, here's the head, let's just like count it off and see what happens. These songs are worked through, and it's. I think someone, it might have been one of my customers, kind of compared Coltrane's group at the time to this second quintet, where like Coltrane's classic quartet just felt like an engine, like one body just like sort of working as one and doing this whole thing. This is a laboratory, and these guys are experimenting, and so that's the heady version of this, but. For me, when I was getting into jazz as a teenager, and I just, before you can Google, before you can look things up, I'm buying things by album covers, and this bright orange cover, it just appealed to me, so I got it, and everything I just told you I didn't know at that point, and I just put the needle on, and I get lost in this record. So it's just, yeah.
Is this your original copy? Do you mind if I pick it up?
It's a mono.
And this is produced by Tio Macero. That's what I was wanted to check out. This is an original, right? This looks like an OG, right?
Mono 2i.
Yeah. And this is the one that you got when you were a kid?
No, I started with a CD.
Okay.
And then once I realized that I was already collecting like rock records. And, I was like weaving my way around this jazz thing. And once I was like, oh, you can collect jazz albums, and started, Mono 2i and like Original Impulse and things like that, whatever. Yeah, that's when I started. So I probably got this in my like late 20s.
I was going to say, what year was this?
65.
Yeah.
So Motown's in full swing. So he's just doing, like, I like comparing, when these seminal albums come out, comparing it to what else was going on.
I love
at the
doing
time.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the Beatles, too. Yeah, Rubber Soul.
And then also, real quick, he has a track record of finding young artists and kind of putting them to the test.
Yep.
And then they go off. Right.
First quintet.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the second quintet, and most of these are all on Columbia, right? Yeah. And this is, so then there's Miles Smiles.
First one's ESP, Miles Smiles. Yeah. At this point, it's going to be out of order, I think, but Nefertiti, Sorcerer, Miles in the Sky, and
These lead into the electric.
Kilimanjaro.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and that literally is like half is this group, and the other half has, I think, Chick Corea and DeJohnette.
Did you say he was 40 on this, or you said 40?
45.
45. Wow.
Yeah.
I think you said 40.
crazy.
45.
No, I don't know.
He was in his 40s, definitely.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about how much Tio Macero was on this with him, like how you were saying how structured this is versus how unstructured things will become later, at least from the performance end. And then it was all pieced together by the producer in the studio.
I think in 65, it was just bubbling before psychedelia and all that shit started popping. And the other thing I think is funny is Miles, he's not the one that I would think smiles all the time.
I know.
Right? He's the asshole of everybody.
Exactly.
So I think that's funny.
One picture of him smiling,
right.
which probably meant someone
And they closed it up, real close. They were like,
There's so many of these. Well, because there's so many of these that the covers are like tamer versions of what Miles is. You know what I mean? Like the one with the girl on the boat, which is the I can't remember. ESP. Yeah, it's ESP.
Well, ESP has that's Francis sitting in a chair, but the woman on the boat, the white lady, that was miles ahead.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then even the Porgy and Bess one, like all those, they're very like classical looking, like almost late 50s.
You get the impression that was like the label art department,
Oh,
that
yeah,
he wasn't having any input.
I really enjoy the earlier Prestige ones where it's like him standing in those long shots and he's never smiling. He's always
never. Yeah.
Right.
straight gruff.
I wonder if that was a joke, like where like someone caught a shot of him smiling, and it's like, hey, we got you. Let's go, Miles.
There's probably people out there who have studied that. Been like, we'll link a YouTube channel to that.
Yeah, but what Max said, I love, and my first time doing it when I was a kid was, I got into the Beatles when I was a teenager in the 80s, and, I would hear about like how innovative it was, but by the 80s, the innovations were already part of the musical lexicon. So like, I remember when I first got a Revolver, and I myself was like, I listened to other music from 1966 before August when Revolver came out, and like that's when you're like, oh, this sounds like it landed from space. It's like you put on Smart Never Knows after listening to everything else came out in '66. And so same thing. It's like, yeah, '65. What else is going on? And yeah, it would have been Help, and like music had not gotten complex yet.
Right.
So it's like
even Sun Ra was straight.
Yes,
in
right?
'65.
Isn't it? It's kind of weird to hear early Sun Ra.
Yeah,
It's like
he was a straight jazz player.
yes.
And then he fucking landed. Whichever way he went.
You were asking, are there other artists that had like a factory like Miles did, where he was producing all these other artists with him? And he was saying that Art Blakey with the Jazz Messengers, but then you were just pointing out.
Well, I was saying that it seems like that was probably not exclusively a jazz thing, but very jazz oriented. Funk bands don't do that, and rock bands don't do that. They don't change members and kind of set them up for a career.
Yeah.
Right.
It feels very jazz oriented.
Yeah, maybe you would know Zappa did some of that, right?
Yeah, eventually.
But he's almost like a jazz outfit too.
Right. He kind of is. I've always kind of thought of him that way. Very cool.
All right, what you got?
Doug. No, I want Doug to go next.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
All right.
So we're gonna hit Doug next.
All right, so I'm going to talk about and play Of All the Hearts by The Deceptions on Brooks. This record is incredibly sick. So the reason I picked it, it's my favorite record in the world, I would say. And the way I discovered it is, yeah, go for it. I used to listen to this like late night AM talk show about like UFOs and political conspiracies, just like weird late night radio, the Raleigh James Show. And she was also a soul collector, I guess, record collector, and would just play the bumpers in between the talking would be these amazing songs that I'd just never heard anything like them. I'd heard plenty of soul and stuff, but they were obscure. They were just coming from a place that I didn't recognize. And she would also do commercials for Val Shively's record store in Upper Darby, this sort of infamous R&B, this crazy, that's a whole other story. But
It is.
she was a friend of his, and so she would talk about him and stuff. So anyway, I went to Val's for the first time, and I was like, I listened to the Raleigh James Show on AM, and she plays these records. I can't put my finger on it what it is about them, but they're incredible. Like, can you guide me to like some of that stuff? Which is funny because he's like an infamous grouch, curmudgeon. Like in retrospect, it was like kind of
He's your regular old
rookie
Miles
move.
Davis.
Yeah.
Val smiles.
But he was like, oh yeah, I dig Raleigh, and he handed me these CDs off the wall, these compilation CDs, the Lost Soul Oldies series, and that it was interesting to me because they were like obviously like sort of like gangsta'd out, like they look like graffiti, like they're like this airbrushed sort of thing, yeah.
That one right there.
And so what they are is like, there's like gray market, like semi-legal, they're like sourced from CDs, I don't think they're paying royalties on these things.
I love the font does look like a South Central.
Oh yeah. Well, so
The graphics
Yeah,
are like.
totally.
The Soldies.
right. So what I came to learn is that there's a very specific type of soul record that is just obsessed over by Latinos in California. It's a real specific scene to do with lowrider cars and like tattoos and fashion.
Dude, it's so cool that you're saying this. That's what all my records are. That's so awesome.
It's like a trendy thing, you know, in the wider world now, you know. But to me, it was just like, what the hell? Like you know, like that graphic aesthetic is not what you would, not what I was expecting when I was like, what are these oldies? What is this cool soul music I hear on the radio? You know, you wouldn't expect it to be all like sort of hip hop looking. But so it's this real specific type of song that appeals to, you know, that gets sort of canonized as, they call them lowriders or soldies or rollas. They're soul ballads, slow, group harmony, usually with a falsetto. Like, it's sort of like the Delphonics, Shy Lights kind of thing, but not every sweet soul record is a lowrider. Like, a lowrider has to be this real specific. I think of the template is Ooh Baby Baby by Smokey Robinson. It's like, if you can just picture how there's like 5 million songs that kind of do that same thing, that's a lowrider. And one funny way to, if you're not sure, like if you see a 45 and you're wondering, look it up on YouTube, and if you see the video image is like Dia de los Muertos, or like a girl with like a hot girl with like tattoos and like a car,
like
and
that right there.
yeah, right. It's this sort of, you know, Aztec iconography and shit. It's like, oh yeah, that's a lowrider.
Or literal lowriders, like old Mercury.
Old cars, right? Yeah.
Like the old cars.
And it's, for those guys, I mean, that goes all the way back to when this music was new, and even pre. It, like in the 50s, the Chicano, or what do you call it?
Brown-eyed soul.
Yeah, like basically they were doo-wop enthusiasts, but it was doo-wop ballads.
Richie Valens, Richie Valens was kind of like, for a lot of people that like, he's like kind of like the closest bridge, if you want to say the most pop thing to come out of that scene. Richie Valens or Sonny and the Sunliners.
Yeah, Sonny Ozuna for sure. Yeah. So anyway, I got these CDs and came to love them, and this record, this song, was my favorite.
Can I see that?
Yeah, or you know, one of my favorites from Lost Soul Oldies Volume 4, one of the ones I got from Val. For a long time, I just had the CDs, and that was enough. I just cared about the music. You know, it was only later that I got interested in the actual record collecting side of it, and it's prohibitively expensive. I mean, sweet soul collecting is, especially now, like all the prices are just through the roof. I mean, it probably would have seemed high then if I would have. It's funny. One time I went back to Val's at some point a few years later with a list of my favorites off of these CDs, and I was like, hey, you know, do you have the Deceptions on Brooks? And he just laughed. He said, you got champagne taste on a beer budget, kid. I was like, well, you don't know my budget, you know. But he was right. I wasn't going to pay like $100 for it, you know.
He knew. That's fantastic.
That is the most I've ever paid for a record, and I actually got like an incredible deal on it. Like that's a pricey record.
So one thing I want to make clear about lowrider songs is they can come from anywhere. Philly has, I noticed this is a Virginia.
That's Virginia, yeah.
Record. So Philly has one, the Ultimates, Why I Love You.
Yeah, the geographic thing is the appreciation for it is in California, but the records are Chicago records, Philly records.
There's Philly records, right? They're all over the place.
And a lot of time it's a northern soul record, and then the flip side is a lowrider ballad. So then it's like, forget it, you'll never afford that.
Right, and the northern soul thing is more of the like fast, upbeat, like we're gonna dance all night, like you know, right.
The side that would be on the radio, and then they put a B-side, which is a ballad on the back.
Not to monologize too much, but I'll just say one more thing about this record is that I actually am friends with the guy who did it on Facebook. He's still around. He's trying to sell bootleg copies of, like, he repressed it. You know, he's trying to sell copies of that. Yeah.
The singer or the label owner?
I think all of the above. I think.
Oh wow, he self-did everything.
I think it's like an overdubbed. I mean, I guess there's a band, but the singers all sound like the same dude.
Okay.
So anyway, it's sweet. He you know, wishes me a happy birthday and stuff on Facebook. You know.
Which side we doing?
Let's listen
Of
to
all
that.
the hearts.
Of all the hearts from the Deceptions. So this one might be a little tricky to find. If we don't find it, I'll try to rip this. I'll get Doug to rip it or something.
on YouTube.
Oh, it's on
Yeah,
YouTube.
you'll
Great,
see
then we'll find it. That's the thing. Like these things are all coming out there now, and like that one that you showed me from the webs, man. That one is just so good.
It's so hard to break a habit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
that's
so
record's
good.
insane.
Now, before I play this, someone, I don't know how I landed on this on social media, but you know, whatever. There was some interview with someone where some old dude was saying rhythm and blues comes from side A was the rhythm side and side B was the blues. As in side A was side you dance to and side B was the slower.
Maybe if that's true, that's an
that's
earlier thing. That's
yeah,
a
but it's
40s,
not weird.
40s, 50 thing. This is 60s, and this is like they're straight on. Everybody's trying to be Motown.
He does a thing, I'll just point it out ahead of time, in the middle there's a monologue and he goes, baby, of all the hearts. And it's double tracked. Instead of echo, he doubled his voice, and one of the voices goes wrong. He says, why did you have to break mine? And the other one goes, why did you have to choose mine? And they're all out of sync, and like they left it that way. Like, it's so good.
Well, they ran out of money in the studio. They were like, all right, that's it.
The flip of this is a funk banger too, yeah.
Damn, drummer's killing it.
Sounds like the mic just fell over on his drums. Oh, shit.
Yeah, the
Put it up.
production too, like it's so well recorded.
Janky.
Dan Goldstone is his name.
Yeah, man, I love his voice.
Yeah, me too. That's what's so attractive about it. I mean, I've come to love everything about it, but that's what got me in the first place. That voice is so unusual but good.
Like it's not the kind of voice you normally hear in these kind of. It's almost like it almost sounds like a 70s rock voice.
That's a great song.
Yeah.
Dude, that is a sick track.
Could not agree more.
Fantastic.
Do you know, has anybody, obviously haven't found tapes, if you're friends with this guy, ask him where he recorded it. Like, get the story. I want to know where he fucking recorded. You know, in Virginia, you had Norfolk scene, right? That was the big scene, Linus Guess and that whole...
I've Google imaged the address on the label.
Yeah, what's that like?
Just a nondescript building in the middle of nowhere looking, yeah.
Then maybe that was the studio then. I mean, that was...
Right.
Well, then that's a perfect segue into mine. So we'll skip Max because I was going to go to you next, but this is a perfect segue into this one because I'm like now jumping ahead and it's so cool. Like, okay, so this was not planned at all. I did not talk to Doug at all before this podcast to talk about this, but like I'm so happy because this is exactly what I am into right now is this like SoCal Soldies, like lowrider stuff. And like, I've been learning all about it. We took a drive up to go interview Lee Fields, and that's when you turned me on to the webs. And then from there, I've been finding all these different things. I should have brought it. There's a new compilation that's out now called Shades of Sorrow from Rocco Records. And it's this dude from Southern California, and he actually knows the Hearttones and the Sacred Souls. His name's Monster Mike. And I'm trying to get a podcast going with him or some kind of interview going with him. And he is putting together these amazing compilations, and the tracks on them are so, I mean, it's basically this kind of thing. But it's
older stuff or new?
It's all
new
older stuff.
thing?
No. It's all these like super rare, old 45s that he has or that he's dug out of places. And then he puts out the CD, which has about 20 tracks. And then the LP has he has to narrow it down to like 15 or so. The LPs that he's been putting out have he's got a couple different color variants on them, but he also puts out reissues of the 45s as well. So through all of that stuff, I found, so, I mean, again, I'm a huge Daptone Records fan, and I'm a huge, Big Crown Records fan. So all these things kind of come from that era. But this one here, Los Yesterdays, is a group that is just coming out. This is a record that just got released I think in either September or August of 2024, but it's been in the works now for a while because the song Nobody's Clown was done with Gabriel Roth and Thomas Brennick. They did a video with it too. So we'll link to that video, but this is a new version of it. They re-recorded it for this one, and this is on Now Again Records. And so this is real sick. I mean, amazing. It's basically two guys is Los Yesterdays. I forget. One of them's name is Gabriel as well.
They used to be on Penrose before, right?
So they were. So they released that Nobody's Clown on Penrose, and I thought they were going to release this record on Penrose. But yeah, so this is from Now Again Records, which Now Again puts out so much amazing shit. And this one is
Gabriel Rowland.
Yes, Gabriel Rowland. That's who is one of the guitar players.
It's interesting here.
One
It
of the
says
singers.
All compositions by Gabriel Rowland and Victor Benavides.
Yes, Victor Benavides. Yes.
Except Nobody's Clown, and that's Thomas Brennick and other people.
Right.
Trish Toledo.
Now, on this version of Nobody's Clown, it's like way more, I would say, authentic to like the older school. Like it's a lot more, has a lot more of a Latino feel to it, and like it's more acoustic. But the rest of the record, I mean, like the whole record is just amazing. There's some female vocals on it too, and just awesome shit. Yeah, let's throw it on.
Nobody's Clown. It's a different version from the Penrose version
Yeah.
that came out. Okay.
Yeah,
So that makes sense. They went back in and re-recorded.
Yeah, they went back, re-recorded it, and it's listed here as LA's Brown Soul. So we'll listen to Nobody's Clown. We'll listen to that version of it. It's the first track. Yeah.
For Mr. Ethan.
Nice. Right, so you can hear that.
Oh yeah, it's a lot more like Mexican.
Yeah,
sounding.
mariachi.
Yeah.
And even like there's not even like it's more hand percussion. All the like the font on the back of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all that look like
Yeah, it's a real defined aesthetic. That's why I wore my Pendleton for lowrider cred.
Got money.
This is nice. I think I have the Penrose 45 of the other version, but I like this.
man, I would love to have all those Penrose pink labels.
Yeah, I started buying them all when they came out. I was like, I'm just gonna run this label because it was like I was into it already when they started. So I was like,
the pink label ones?
a bunch of them, but then I stopped. I should have kept it going. I bought like the first 10 or 12, and then I didn't keep up with it.
Very much a Southern California thing. Like
Yeah.
people on the East Coast don't, with the exception of some people, it's not like a record you would throw on,
I know. And that's why I'm throwing it on.
It's starting to grow, but
Record store on Whittier Boulevard, like you put that at the first track and they'd be like, oh shit, yeah, it's.
here's a somewhat interesting. My only like exposure to the scene in person was we went out 2 years ago with the Ultimates. We brought them out to California, and these Chicano dudes hired us to do a show. And it was the first night we get there, we all go to someone's backyard where, the woman of the house made dinner for everybody. 40 people show up, and we're in the back of this garage, and they're doing like a live stream, and the Ultimates are like, on pedestals. Everybody's like, holy shit, it's the Ultimates, right? This girl came up and she had the tattoo of the record on her arm. No. Yeah. And this is the best thing was the Ultimates only heard from me. They didn't hear from anybody else because they just didn't know that their record was this big over there.
So their mind was
blown away.
That's incredible.
This other woman came up, just real quick, this other woman came up and said, when my dad was on his deathbed, he would say, go grab the record. And the record was the Ultimates, and they would listen to it together. So it was just like extremely emotional. But in saying that, we did the show, and the headliners were Sacred Souls, and Ultimates were right underneath it. And a lot of the older guys would not fuck with the Sacred Souls. They left because they don't like the new wave.
They don't
These
like
are
the
young
new
stuff.
stuff. Yeah, right.
They want the original
Which I could
stuff.
totally could see that. Like I totally could see, I got this, Los Yesterdays, These Sacred Souls, and then we'll get to another one in a little bit. But I could totally see that being like, nah, this isn't the way it is, man. It's not like Sunny and the Sunliners, but it's like, you got to keep it alive. I mean, you got to keep it going, man. Like the fact that these guys are doing this stuff nowadays, the fact that these younger generations are doing it, they should be lauded. Like, because I did not know about any of this shit before I heard these guys. And now it makes me want to go back and find out. Right. I went and bought that book. There's a great book, Ruben Molina.
Chicano Soul.
Yeah, Chicano Soul. I just bought it and I've been reading the whole thing. Like it talks about Richie Valens, talks about Sonny Ozuna, and like it talks about how, like you're saying, it's so regional. It's weird because we're in a cool time now with the advent of internet that like the Ultimates can get outreached out there, but it would have been so much better for it to have happened when they were 15, and it would have been so much better for like all those people to have been like able to have get into the right places.
One of the defining things about it too is, and the contrast I find interesting is that it's moody, it's sad, it's vulnerable, it's emotional music. It's like guys crying in a really high voice about how sad they are and how hurt they are, and it's just like, it's so funny that that's the choice of like this real tough, like these like dudes with like tattoos and cars and like this sort of macho scene, but it's like when it's time to listen to records, like they just want to just cry.
It's amazing.
I would say before we get to you, what pisses me off is this is what record stores they should be about, like getting stuff like this on vinyl, pressed, and instead of like another version of Rumors or some picture disc of like Bluey, whatever. It's like I'm like, this is the stuff that should be
Talking about record stores.
seriously. Like it's such a freaking whatever. Don't.
How many versions of whipped cream do we need? I mean, come on.
Was that they did do that?
They did like a picture disc. They did a
you-
180 gram pressing
The
for like
originals are
40
creeping
bucks.
up in value too.
Are they?
It's literally every.
I got about 400.
I know. You used to have the wallpapered with them.
Well, that's when I opened my store, that's what it was. It was like, I want you to come in and talk about music and learn something you don't know. Because I'm doing it every single day because I'm always buying records and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, I know all the classics. I've seen them all. I want to find something I don't know. So, and that leads me into this.
Not something we don't know.
All right, so this is, I don't know if
Here,
we
go
can
for
see.
that one. Is that one still rolling, by the way?
Yeah, I think so.
They're all good.
So this is Johnny Knight, and there are some other mentions of Johnny Knight. Just a couple years ago, Numera Group put out like a limited 45 that was kind of a rockabilly Johnny Knight, but I think it had a difference in the spelling. Might have not had the H in it that this does. I think they're the same guy, but I've never sat down and listened back and forth. The label Brave, when I found this copy of this record, there was none online. I like to call them ungoogleables. And they, Brave started popping up, and it turns out it's a Chicago label, but I think I've tracked this Johnny Knight down to South Jersey, which is important for me because I like to collect local stuff. So let's put, the song's called Woman.
So is Brave from South Jersey?
No, Brave is from Chicago, I think. Chicago area somewhere.
Why don't you want my Is there something
So obviously it sounds some Roy Orbison influence, right?
Yeah.
But it's a little more groovy and a little more,
no,
kind of got a little Latin. Yeah. Yeah. Nice vocal range too.
Why don't you listen to
Damn.
It's not ungoogleable anymore because I've made a Discogs entry. Like I don't know. I know what I
made a
know.
Discogs
Yeah.
entry?
Yeah. So anybody out there that knows about this record, let me know. Like let me know anything I don't know. You know, like who was this guy?
Is this on? Do you think this is on
He's
YouTube?
a great singer.
I don't know if it is on YouTube yet. I've never taken the time, I don't think. It might be at this point.
Like the rhythm section is so tight. His voice is so great.
And there's no specific area I can pinpoint it to, you know?
Those leads are that lead guitar is fantastic.
Yeah. It's almost mariachi. It's almost got the, like,
The backup singers and the steel guitar sound like Nashville.
Yeah.
But
Plus, like if you see a 45 like this in the wild, you just buy this label like immediately. Like you just, that's so great.
That now, like you fast forward that to right now, that's Krungbin.
yeah.
That's totally you just like that sort of where they're from Texas. That sort of like the sounds, cultural kind of thing. Just like if you take that vocal out, that would be and slow it down, that would be Krungbin.
put that guitar part on like a Strat with reverb or whatever that guy's that guitar tone that dude has.
All right, I'm going to make a hard shift to 90s British singer-songwriters.
Nice.
And actually, he started out in the 80s. But this is Billy Bragg's Don't Try This at Home. The only way you can get it on an album is the UK. The reason I brought this is, and it wasn't supposed to be a theme, but the theme is 30 years between each. It's not a complete 30, but Miles is 65. This is 91. And back in 91, if we remember the era of Nirvana and all that kind of stuff, I declared this is the best album of 91. And then by the end of the decade, I said this is the best album of the 90s. And I still hold firm to that. Billy Bragg started out doing just the solo electric and vocal, which is sort of like that folk punk thing, whatever. If you've never heard him, he has an extremely strong Cockney accent. This album is very produced, full band. The producer is Grant Showbiz, which is his like constant producer, but it sounds like a Johnny Marr. Like it sounds like the Smiths a little bit. It sounds a little Daniel Lanois. It's got that very atmospheric kind of like feel to it. The songwriting is stunning, and some of the subject matters are absolutely heartbreaking. Like there's a song in here called Everywhere that I try to cover, but I literally get emotional playing it, so I've stopped playing it. It's just a masterpiece. And so I think I will do a song that is kind of the standout, even though it's weird to say on an album that's good.
Can I see the cover?
Oh, totally, yeah. And it is 45 RPM.
Oh, it's 45?
Yeah.
I love that.
He has a song on here dedicated to his father called Tank Park Salute. And it is emotional AF.
I love the sticker. 60 minutes of music for the price of a single album.
If it was 33, it would be a single album, dude. Calm down.
You think this is a play on Prince, the Time of the Signs, instead of Sign of the Times?
Yeah,
right, yeah.
Time owed the signs.
No, totally.
And he's got pink instead of purple.
Yeah, no. Billy Bragg does not know what he's doing, so.
Nighty night.
Yeah, all the little, and all the, there's a lot of little interesting little things in here.
Which song is this?
Tank Park Salute.
He was real political, right?
Extremely
That's
political.
like kind of all I really know about him.
Extremely political.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
This is beautiful. I don't think I've ever really listened. It's just a name I've heard and not known.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things that I feel like it's swept away because obviously it's 1991,
Yeah.
so people aren't really listening to this.
Yep, exactly.
And then also people would hear this and go, oh, it's just like, this is a Cure wannabe or something like that, or like...
Yep. And it's such a, again, like in 91, just everything was so loud and bombast, and everything was loud. And this is such, and there's some rockers on here, but it's just such a complex and just literally pretty and heartbreaking album. And it's just, yeah, it just got lost in the loudness of 91.
Have they reissued it? And no, still.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
Crazy that they don't reissue that. You would think that that'd be something that they would sell pretty well nowadays too.
I don't know. People don't know. People don't know. Well, I mean, a lot of that early '90s, they just officially reissued "Vivid" by Living Color, which even though it's '88, they just reissued Tori Amos's "Little Earthquakes," but like, Indigo Girls, Tracy Chapman's first album isn't reissued, and like, OG copies are insanely expensive. Yeah. And so it's just, I don't know what's up with these labels, but it's like they're
working through them.
I guess so.
Good that they put it out on 45 because a lot of the 90s stuff, like on CD, they can blow it out to like 80 minutes or so, but then when they try to like smash it onto vinyl, it sounds horrible.
That's the 3 Feet High and Rising issue.
That's why usually, again, record store day, I usually feel like their stuff is crap, but that 45 box of the album, I was like, that's legit.
I can leave those fucking things.
At least it was 45 RPM.
It is 45, but even more important, the Radiohead did a lot of 45 RPM 10 inches, and so they would only do 2 songs per side, and they do it at 45 RPM, and like that's where the highest of the high fidelity comes in. What you got?
All right, so I wasn't sure if I'd pick this one, but I'm gonna pick it because it'll tie in. Story on this is, so it's from '91, Wilmington, Delaware. I grew up near there and in Pennsylvania, but so '91 I was either freshman or sophomore in high school. Used to come home from school and go to sleep like a nap, be tired after school and sleep with the radio on, playing WVUD. Back then it was WXDR, I think, but the Newark, Delaware, University of Delaware college station. And in the afternoon hours at that time, it was a show called The Cutting Edge, which was alternative indie, 91 college radio. You can imagine what that was like. And which wasn't even really my sound or something I was particularly interested in, but it was just the most interesting thing on the radio. And I was, like I said, I was asleep. I was just like kind of zoning out with the radio on. And every now and then, I used to hear this song, and I really dug it, but I just never took the trouble to learn the artist or the name. And it was clearly like some local lo-fi, kind of thing that I'm hearing, half asleep. So I just had the vaguest idea. I didn't know what the words were or anything. I would always be like, oh, remember that song with the guy who's kind of moaning and playing an acoustic and it's double tracked? But I never found out. And so all this time went by and it became more mythical as the years went by. I was like, oh, that song I used to hear on the radio, I'll never know. Because it was clearly like local, you know what I mean? It's not like a famous song. I used to ask people that worked at the radio station or people that were around Newark, indie rock at that time, and like just it became this like white whale for me. Like, will I ever again in my life hear this song? And then 5 or so years ago on Facebook, I found this group called like the Newark, Delaware music scene of the 90s, Facebook group. So I was like, well, that's pretty specific. I don't, if I'm ever going to find it. So I got onto it and I said, I just told the whole story like I just did. I was like, I used to hear this song on the Cutting Edge around early 90s. I loved it. All I remember is kind of what it sounded like. I don't remember the name of the artist or the title or any lyrics. And I recorded myself going, and like a little MP3 with no words, just moaning and playing my guitar. Like, it was kind of like this. And the drummer of Zen Gorilla, which is a whole other thing, because I idolized Zen Gorilla back then. Like, that was it was like a big deal to me to even communicate with this guy as an adult. But Andy Duvall from Zen Gorilla was on the Newark group, and he was like, oh yeah, that's Jimmy Krause. That's the Ballad of Lummox. Jimmy, I can tell, like, as soon as I heard you moaning, he was like, before I even played your clip, when you described it, I thought it might be, and then when I heard you sing that thing, I was like, oh, that's fucking it. So, yeah, it's like, I love it. I think it's a haunting, beautiful song. I don't think he might have had like one other record. He's still around. He's got like a Bandcamp, but
Where'd you find the record?
Yeah, it was great.
Discogs. Yeah, once I knew what it wasn't hard to get. And it's around here. You'll see it. I've seen it popping up in Philly. But it sounds kind of like someone who's been influenced by Nirvana, but I don't think Nirvana, I guess, was happening in 91, but it sounds like unplugged Nirvana, which I don't think was happening. Like, I think this is just his own thing. Like, I think it was coming from the same place that Nirvana came from, but...
Like 91 was it was an interesting thing where like you had the noise, but also it was like the beginning of the coffee house scene. Yeah. So you had that like the acoustic, so it was like there was that sort of kind of, and now unfortunately they're still around and like it needs to stop, but like the sort of aggressive acoustic thing where it's like, yeah.
Well, it's 1991 on Aspirin Records, which is like the most 1991 record label name I've ever heard.
What's it called?
It's called The Myth of Lummox.
Aspirin Record?
Aspirin, yeah, like the medication.
This is like
Delvin Terrace, Wilmington. I know where this is.
Yeah. There's video footage on YouTube of this guy from back then, too, at some party.
Oh, that's cool.
But I think it's beautiful.
This is dope.
It's really literate. The lyrics sound like Shakespeare or something. Like, it's probably an English major.
Just checking the speed.
Oh yeah, no, that's right.
I can't believe you pressed this.
Yeah, it sounds like it should be a cassette tape, right?
Exactly.
Maybe it was.
Yeah, I mean that's like that's what I was just thinking. The fact that this even is on vinyl, like
It's like, oh yeah, an
Oh yeah, a little.
Insert, nice.
with the lyrics.
Right, you need those lyrics. They're good, and it's hard to kind of discern with all the way he enunciates.
Damn, that's really dope. I love that you found this.
That chord right there, that's what stuck with me. Like that, like
What is it?
it's an F sharp seventh. Like if you're an E and you go an F sharp seventh, like that's the, right there it is again. Yeah, that for some reason that just hooked me, and then what a day when I finally found it and heard it. You know, I was just like, oh my God, that's it. I was like, I was in tears. And it was Zen Gorilla. Yeah, that was even more so.
Now let me ask you: were you playing guitar at this point?
Yeah.
Like, as someone in kind of I play, but I'm ignorant to music, whatever. Is what he's playing difficult? Like, is that interesting as a guitar player?
It's
Okay.
like easy, but,
Okay.
but like you would have to be cool to think of it. Like right there, he's playing an A chord, but he's leaving the B string open. He's playing the chords in like easier ways,
So,
like a lot of
gotcha,
open strings, kind of that
gotcha.
drony
Yeah.
way
That
of
was
playing.
very 90s, by the way.
Yep,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, yeah, it's just, it couldn't be more 1991. It doesn't sound folky. I mean, it's an acoustic guitar, but it sounds like heroin, you know? It sounds like dark and
it does sound very druggy.
opiated, yeah.
Like even he sounds like he's drugged
Yeah.
out.
That is absolutely fascinating.
Was that an expensive 45?
No, it's probably 10, 15 bucks. It's out there. It's funny, I think on Discogs, like the genre tag is like freak folk or acid folk or something. So I was interested when I saw that, like, oh, I guess that's what you call this if you want to sell it. You know, like freak folk rarity, Newark, Delaware, 1991.
Let your freak folk fly.
Disc makers would have put a DM in there, and Frankfurt
there's
Wayne
that.
would have mastered it.
It's not in the credits.
It's not. This looks like it might have been done in Virginia or something.
The DC punk scene, they were doing a lot of, like, their stuff was pressed in Virginia.
Yeah. Virginia had the other plant, and it was,
That's why,
there was
okay.
disc makers in Philly.
Yeah.
So disc makers. Well, Frankfurt
Jersey,
Wayne was
Jersey.
the bigger draw here. Frankfurt Wayne Mastering House. That's where everybody went to. But something like that, I don't think. Yeah,
that was the big names.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were still small. It was everybody kind of in this area in New York. All the hip hop guys in New York got mastered at Frankfurt Wayne. And then disc makers was like, okay, we're done mastering. Let's send it to disc makers to get pressed.
So Disc Makers is a pressing plant?
Disc makers is and they're still in
do
existence.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they do CDs, but they're
Actually, they're back to vinyl.
Right.
yeah.
It's a- yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, you.
What's that? Me next? All right. Well, then I'm going to skip my other one and I'm going to go to this one, which again, back into that Southern SoCal soul scene, everything. And again, these are all ones that just came out recently. So that's why I wanted to bring them up here because these are all new artists. Plus, this is on a really sick orange translucent vinyl. But this is the Heart Tones. And then, so back to the conversation with all these groups, it's not just the Heart Tones, it's the Heart Tones.
The Midnighters
Right.
was,
And
I
got
think, the
their-
original of that.
I got that record too. I was thinking about bringing that here too, because there's like, but they have some like garage rock with their stuff, awesome, which is really cool too. But this one, man, like, what's that? Megan Thee Stallion, right? But this shit right here is.
On a New York label.
Yeah, on a New York label too, on Big Crown Records, which
Apocalypse.
produced by like Danny Apocalypse and but this is produced specifically by Leon Michaels and Tommy Brennick. I think it's awesome that like the same guys that were doing that like revival scene with Daptone and all that shit are now pulling in all this like SoulCal stuff too, because why not? Like it's getting real popular, you know?
Oh, Michael's Affair. That's Leon Michaels. And then Tommy Brennick's been doing stuff forever. You know.
Yeah. Tommy Brennick's got his own label out now, Diamond West Records.
I have to say, I was a teeny bit
Jose.
disappointed at Leon Michaels' production on the last Nora Jones record, her newest album. Like, I was excited for that pairing. Yeah. And it just, I don't know. I don't know. I never like when a producer like puts their mark on
She what was the last album? Who did she did? She did with another.
Well, Danger Mouse, that was a while ago.
Okay.
But the most recent album was Al Michaels. The one before that wasn't anyone legit, but the previous, I mean, not previous, but
I don't think I even knew that. Al Michaels did a record with, Nora Jones. That's what I meant.
Visions, the new album.
Oh no, I didn't know that
And
at
you know
all.
who Nora Jones is, right?
Oh yeah,
Well, do you know who her dad is?
Yes, of course.
her dad.
Her dad's Ravi Shankar.
I did not know that.
Her estranged dad.
For Strange Dad, right?
Like, I don't think he
knows.
very much.
Wow.
He doesn't know, but
Because he is much older. Like he,
Yeah, he had that tantric shit going on.
That's crazy.
Oh wait, what track can I put?
Hold on, let me see here. Well, actually, yeah, you can go with the
Band
first
name,
track
by the
too.
way, the
Again,
Tantric Babies.
Forever and Ever is their single. So, and again, there's that artwork.
Back up
Yep.
his incense.
Yep.
That amazing, like that SoCal artwork. And look, there's like the sad clowns on it too.
Right. That's the motif.
I'm going with the first track.
Yeah, this is recorded at Diamond West.
Yeah.
See,
I have this on cassette.
that's right. Inject it right into my veins.
It's the sweet spot
They look like they would just kick your ass.
there.
Yeah. And then cry to themselves.
And then they would listen to this.
Yeah, they would just kick your ass and then just.
I'd be like, shit, like on the ground, and I'd be like, damn, I'm all robbed, but like, your fucking music's cool.
The guitar player on that was really good. That had a nice little guitar break on it.
Fire, yeah.
I'm friends with Tommy on Instagram, and every session, it's a lot of the same guys playing.
Well, that's what's interesting about this is these groups kind of seem to break that mold a little bit. Like they used to always do that. Like they used to always have like a lot of the same musicians playing on all the same things. But this one, like Jasmine Alvarado, Ricardo Ceroza, Jorge Rodriguez, Walter Morales. I've never heard of any of these guys. Like these are all just specifically in this group. But you're right. Like Daptone or Big Crown, that's usually how I can always identify it is Homer Steinweiss's drums or Dave Guy's trumpet specifically. And it's cool because both of those guys are actually coming out with solo records now on Big Crown. So that'll be coming out soon. I'll probably be talking about them in another episode.
Max, what do you got?
Let's go to Edith Alexandra. This is completely unknown to me. I don't think anybody really knows who she is.
You went obscure, man, with your pile.
What?
You went obscure, man.
Yeah, I probably should. In the next one's even more. So
That's a crispy looking copy too.
yeah, it's a pretty copy. So when I had the store, it was just constantly anything that came in or any collection I went to, anything Philly, I just set aside. And then I'd go back and listen to stuff. And this is something I've consistently gone back to, but I've also played out when I spin out. I got the nod from Mike Noriega in California when I was doing another web thing. And I said, I've been really digging this tune and he was like, oh yeah, I know that song. But again, it's like, nobody wants on Discogs. It's never been for sale, so it's just the copies don't float around. And then another cool thing, my shop was forever at 2710 West Girard, and the record label address is 1834 West Girard, so less than 10 blocks away is where this record started.
I had looked over because one of my dad's records, that font, everything about this, the font, the look is like a similar.
Yeah.
So
this guy had, the guy who, Bobby King or whatever it is, who had the label,
yeah.
he had 3 different labels putting out stuff, but I have no idea who this woman is.
This would have been great for a blog fest.
It's more lowrider though. It gets into this.
And those rhythms are fire.
Yeah.
That guitar is
Yeah.
so crisp.
Yeah, it's tight.
And the harmonizing, the background vocals, just throughout the whole song,
What year is this? You don't even know? 60s. It's got to be late 60s. I mean, like, this is recorded right down the street from. That's so amazing, man. It is amazing. Wow.
Yeah, how much is out there? It's never ending.
It never ends. Like,
That's the thing I love about music. Where I'm at with music, I still go out and find stuff I had no fucking good stuff that I had no clue existed.
And that's me with
I love this.
this is awesome.
Yeah,
This is really good.
Did I hear you right?
Yeah.
Did I hear you right? Like, yo, bitch.
Yeah,
Did I hear you
I'm
right?
sorry. I'm going to write a song about it.
Hold on one second. I'll be right back.
Crossfire.
Yeah, so there's a couple other things on Crossfire. There's Sonny Fulton, who I'm a big fan of. As a matter of fact, Sonny Fulton produced this next mystery record we have here.
The Crossfire was a dance.
Was it?
Yeah, I remember talking to a older woman once about dancing, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you're one of those crossfires." And I was like, "What, crossfire?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, that was the thing, the crossfire."
Is that this thing?
Maybe, I don't know. I should dig into it a little more.
Yeah. Find it. Send me a. She's having a crossfire in her brain.
Girl crossfire.
Look at this. Two Ben
Oh yeah.
and Billy King,
Or Bobby King. That's the owner of the label.
oh shit!
Bobby King gave.
Wow. Where did you find this?
I have no fucking clue.
No, it just came across. Just wandered in one day.
I buy a lot of records.
And it's great. Like there was a guy that I saw one time on YouTube who was talking about how to find good 45s, and he's like, because you could be going into places and there's just labels and labels and labels, and he said whenever you see straight lines on a 45, if you see straight lines or if you see good fonts, that's like, or like this with the Brave thing where it's like, it's anything that's like cool, you know what I mean? You're just like, that's immediate.
Well, that's the industry standard. If you see a peacock chair, a peacock chair is the Al Green chair.
Yeah, right.
If you see that on a record, buy it immediately.
The wicker
question,
chair.
the wicker chair. You're just like, all right, I got.
That's like that joke about like all the bangers in the 80s had to doing a lean, like the Lionel Richie, the Michael Jackson, just like you got to do the lean. All right, which brings us to, as your pile this year, and what I consider the album of the year. I don't think it's going to beat, and one of the greatest albums I've ever heard in my life, the new Michelle Indegliocello. Went to the World Cafe show. So the album is called No More Water, the Gospel of James Baldwin. And she's been signed to Blue Note. It's her second album on Blue Note. It is not jazz, even though people keep trying to put it in. And I think it's the whole thing is you don't know where to put this. So the short version of my experience with this record is me and my wife were on the road to Newport Jazz Festival in August. And we went up Thursday. And we were looking at the lineups, trying to figure out our plan for the weekend. Three stages. What are we doing? And I realized my wife had never heard Michelle Indegliocello. And I was like, oh. And I was like, well, she has an album coming out. Let's check it out. So Thursday, since the album was coming out the next day. So by Thursday, all we could hear were 3 tracks. And it was like, okay, if this is the rest of the album, we're done. The side thing is that the rest of the trip was catching my wife up to all 11 Michelle Indegliocello records, and she's now obsessed. But so her Sunday set was the debut of this album live, and we're like, oh my God. So the drive home on Monday was listening to the record, which is now available, and it is heavy. It is about racism. There's a song in here that is, there's 2 spoken word pieces by a poet that will wreck you. I hate comparing like something done by a female artist to a male, but I heard a critic say it's kind of like a 21st century What's Going On combined with Last Poets, and that is the best way to describe that album.
Do you recognize any of the other players on it?
We've now seen the show twice, and actually her drummer, multi-instrumentalist, and keyboard player, they have their own band, and they were like the opening act with the World Cafe show last week. And so we met them, and actually I met them at the chicken, one of the vendors at the show. But it's none of the names that, like, it's a young group, but my God, they're so good. They're so like versatile and skilled. But this here is just acoustic guitar and her vocal, and it's gonna wreck you.
She still feels or sounds like youthful, young. Like she's been out for a while. How old is she? She's 60 or?
I think a hair older than me. I think maybe mid or late 50s. Okay. Because she was pretty young when that first. And it's interesting. My wife, we did the deep dive
from dreadlocks to bald head back.
If you go by timeline, Plantation Lullabies was the first neo soul record that came out. It beats Badoism, like it's the first of that style, and so it's just Yeah, she's been doing this for a long ass time.
Sounds like Thundercat.
Right? Yeah.
Like the unusual changes
yeah.
and the weird voice. And
Is that a wah on the bass?
I think it might be an envelope filter, which is like it's a automatic wah. So it's a wah sound, but you don't control it with your foot. It just however hard you hit the harder you hit it, the more it quacks. Like the louder the signal, the more it wahs.
Again, the production
And
is
the
really
whole
good.
record all the way through is good. There's little gems everywhere.
Yeah, and it's heavy. You know, it's. I think I lean towards the heavy. I think it's the takeaway from this session. It's like, oh, my shit's heavy, but yeah, it's good and heavy. And at the World Cafe show, I don't think the folks there were ready for because they were waiting for the bops. Yeah. And she read from some poetry and stuff. It was very much an experiential thing. I was perfectly happy with that. I love World Cafe Live. I love that venue.
Do you as a player, do you both upstairs, downstairs? You have one over the other?
Oh, downstairs is way better. Yeah, you feel like you're in a real zone. Yeah, downstairs. Upstairs has like a supper club vibe, which is cool in its own way. But
Doug, you're up, man.
to me, yeah. All right. So I brought a bunch of good soul records and stuff. I wasn't sure what I would play. I got many sick lowriders, but instead, I'm gonna talk about my favorite guy in the world, R. Stevie Moore. You guys know R. Stevie Moore? He's certainly not a household name. Long story short, I'll tell my sort of entry with him. I had this book of weird stuff you can get in the mail in high school. And one of the things was, there's this guy in New Jersey who makes his own tapes, and he's got 400 tapes, and they're all really strange. He's this eccentric. He's like a cross between Zappa and the Beatles and the Residents, and this complete oddball, plays all the instruments, homemade music. So I sent away for his catalog. It was like he had a catalog. I sent away for it, and it was like this stapled together 20 Xerox pages of small print of all these tapes. He had been making tapes since 1968. Wow. Way before that was now every kid has a 4-track and he makes tapes, but he was way, way ahead of the curve, and song titles and album titles were hilarious, and just intriguing. And they were all ranked. He would give them a rating. He would be like, "This sucks, don't buy it. This one is brilliant, pure genius." That's awesome. So just his whole personality, even just from the catalog, was really interesting. And at the time, I was Mr. Zappa, Residents, Avant. What appealed to me was the idea that this was going to be the freakiest shit anyone had ever heard, But I had that catalog forever before I even ordered or heard any of it. I just used to carry it around and look at it. And then finally I was like, all right, I got to order some tapes. They were, it was $8 for a 90-minute or $6 for a 60, and it was buy 2, get 1 free. So I sent away I paid for 4 and got 6, so it's a big investment for me at the time, and then got this huge package of tapes, and they were handmade. They were Maxell's dubbed in magic marker and Xerox covers and personal
Send
note.
away for him. That's so awesome.
He wrote a note. He was like, "Hey, thanks." One of the tapes I had ordered.
It's shit, somebody ordered it.
Right. One of the ones I ordered was the most, from his description, this is the most unlistenable, experimental, the freakiest tape I have, and I ordered that. And he didn't send it. He sent another. He was like, "You don't want to hear that." It's he's like, "Try this one first." Knowing I think that he had a repeat customer on his hands, So he sent me this much more pop-oriented tape. Anyway, there's much more to be said. His dad played bass for Elvis. His dad was the Nashville A-team country bass player. He played Patsy Cline, Roy Orbison. All that is this guy's dad. He grew up in Nashville, kind of royalty. The thing I was getting to is that what I was shocked to realize when I got the tapes was that although he is very weird, it's beautiful. He writes some music that's heartbreaking or hilarious or just Lennon and McCartney, Brian Wilson level brilliant. as far as I'm concerned. His skill as like an arranger is amazing for like a guy who is like, he didn't even have multi-track, like where you would overdub, 4 tracks and fill it up or whatever. He had 2 reel-to-reel decks, and he would just bounce back and forth, so nothing could be mixed. Everything was mixed, as he went, and had to be final. Anyway, he's great. He's later in life now has, some more notoriety and a bit more of a name as like sort of the godfather of home recording. And Ariel Pink, if you've heard of him, is like, he like worships our Stevie Moore. Like he kind of took his whole thing from our Stevie Moore, basically. I love him. I have a giant collection. I've gotten to be friends with him too over the years. Now I know him personally, and love him on that level too. He's back in Nashville now. He was born in Nashville and then moved to New Jersey in the late 70s to make it, to get closer to New York, and it just never happened. But look, if you read, he's been covered in the press, even back then, over the years. Everyone is just like, I can't believe, like, why isn't this guy famous? Like, this is the most brilliant musician you've never heard of. But then it's like, you kind of can tell why, because he just doesn't edit himself. That's what everybody says. Like, you need an editor. Like, you have 400 tapes. You have, it doesn't throw anything away. Like, that's the rap on him. It's like the guy needs an editor. But of course, that's the beauty of it. Right. The tapes are. So anyway, I'll play a little bit of. This is his first sort of vinyl album.
What was the record?
Yeah, how did that? Yeah.
This was, so the original edition of this was 100 copies. This is not one of the originals. Then that was 1976. So this was the first time he took his tapes, and actually his uncle paid for it to be on a record, to try and get himself out in the world. Then I think in 78, he repressed it in a slightly larger edition.
Look at that cover.
Yeah, it's homemade. I mean, this is his handwriting. There's the stickers and tapes.
I just love that he spelled Mike like the name Mike. Recorded with one mic.
Yeah.
Recorded with one mic.
This was, I think, a radio station copy. A friend of mine found the copies of his first couple albums in a sale in New Jersey somewhere and bought them for me. And they all had those. That's his handwriting. I recognize it. It's little handwritten notes.
Once again, be very careful with outros and queuing up all tracks.
Yes.
Do not play this record until you have pre-listened. And the only way to describe the material is offbeat.
Yeah.
So this kind of reminds me of Daniel Johnston stuff.
Right.
That's what I was thinking when you were.
The difference between him and like the sort of outsider, like Daniel Johnston types, is that like Brian Wilson level of sort of sophistication and brilliance. Like, he is an oddball for sure, but yeah, he's like, it's not just like, oh, I can't believe this crazy guy made these crazy tapes, So
Do his records go for money now?
yeah. I mean, not like a fortune, but they're collectible, on some level. I was gonna play "I've Begun to Fall in Love," which is, I think, one of his just most beautiful things. But it's track 6, I guess, if you can locate and play live at Johnny Brenda's probably 10 years ago. And this was when he had this like hipster resurgence. The whole audience was like teenagers, and they were singing along. He started playing this song, and the room started to sing along and hold up lighters. You could tell he was shook as fuck, like, yeah.
This reminds me of Cody Chestnut, the headphone masterpiece by Cody Chestnut.
I think Cody name checks him as an influence. Yeah.
Very much.
He was sampled by Dilla.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
As an example of how weird he gets. So this is a psychedelicized bank commercial.
Like the next one.
Yeah, the thing is just, I don't even know what the fuck it is, but like, this is an example of what fills up his tapes.
Our annual 9.25% interest rate compounded with mortgage agreements in the line. And millions of dollars
But the music in the background's dope.
Right? It's like Eno and shit, yeah.
by the standards of the nearest brand.
He was super into like Eno, it's funny, his early stuff is like from his like Beatles, Beach Boys, Zappa worship, And then as the 70s go on, like he got real glammed out. Everything sounded like Roxy Music. And then in the 80s, it's all like Public Image. Like his early 80s are very like drum machine, minimal, post-punk and.
So you like kept up with what was going on, kind of thing.
Yeah. Anyway, our Stevie Moore, the man.
Some crazy
I
shit.
could keep listening. That was fantastic.
Yeah, well, there's so much more where that came from. Dig in.
Is he online now? Is he?
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Wow, that was fantastic.
1978.
The first track we heard.
It's called "I've Begun to Fall in Love."
Okay. I want
How
to
many records do you have of his?
Oh man, I mean, I have like stacks and stacks of cassette tapes from back when I used to order tapes, and then when he switched to CDRs, I bought them, which I was probably one of the only people, or one of few people buying his CDRs. And
I love that.
in the
I
90s,
love
so
that
I'm
you were like
stacking
one
them.
guy, like helping this guy out.
Well, not one. I mean, there's more, but yeah, I was more rabid.
Like the cassettes that you bought from him back then, you still have those cassettes.
Yeah, most of them. Some of them I really miss. I loaned out or lost. I wasn't as meticulous a collector at the time. But yeah, I got a pile of cassettes and homemade CDRs, and then vinyl records. Probably like that.
Wow.
He's got a lot through the years.
All right, what do you got?
Well, we can skip this. Let's go. All right. Well, I was gonna
You're
get right to
breaking all
yours,
the
'cause
rules.
I know I'm breaking all the rules. All right. But okay, so
Habitual
going. I know I am going back to the SoCal Soldy stuff, but this is again a newer group. This is obviously probably the most popular group right now with this scene, and that is the Sacred Souls. And this is their newest record. Again, this is the gold edition on the Penrose label. They have many different variants of this. We were kind of talking about it a little bit earlier, but this is the alternate cover that has like a Bill Withers style gatefold. I'm not going to take it out because it's a pain in the ass to get back in to the. What's that?
Nice reference point.
Yeah, right. It's like the Still Bill cover there. And I gotta say, you were mentioning that you happen to like this record a lot more than their first one. Like, I feel like there's a lot more mature sounds on this, and there's definitely a track on this one. I forget which track it is, but it sounds like a Marvin Gaye song. Like, it sounds just like a Marvin Gaye song.
Daptone is really leaning heavily into that.
Yes.
Jalen Naganda has a
Yes.
song just like that.
Oh, basically that whole record.
I think that's one of the songs that I like on this, and what it is that they even do that like bell, that
Right.
chime, that like they're totally trying to do Motown.
Yeah, they're doing it, man, and
they're doing a good job.
Yeah, they are. And so this one's really sick, and we'll go on to, so these guys. I mean, you've hung out with Sal and you've hung out with Alex and with all of them and stuff like that. But I find it interesting that it's only the three of them, even though there is a dedicated organ player, a dedicated guitar player, the backing vocalists are dedicated, but they only list like the three of them.
Yeah, I
so
don't know
that's something that I would like to ask them.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that. They definitely, I've known them. I saw them in Brooklyn the very first time that they came to the East Coast.
Side 2, track 2.
The very first time they played in Brooklyn, Jeremy, Zombie, and Froze One, Josh, and I went up to Brooklyn.
I got to talk to you about Froze One.
And we all saw the show, and then there was an after party where DJ Fine Wine was playing, so we all went there, and that's when I first met them. And then I just stayed in touch, and when they came back to Philly, they came by the shop together. The whole band comes in the shop, and I took them out to get a sandwich, and I won them over because they'd been on the road for a month, and they're like, we haven't had really good food in a while. So that was awesome. Josh is incredible, the vocalist, the lead vocalist.
Yeah.
He's amazing. And it's funny is he didn't know soul music. Like, he's not from a soul music background. Really? He sings more like folky, like guitar driven stuff. So that was me.
These backing vocals.
Yeah.
And what's her name? The girl. You can just hear that girl.
They've gone through a couple backing vocalists.
Well, this is a Bosco Man production, so this one is produced by Gabriel Roth.
Yeah.
And so he's got his hands all over this. This is all Penrose.
So Riley and Shay are the other two guys.
That's the guitar player and organist.
Yeah, they're awesome too.
They are. Right, and that's a big thing about this music is the organ. Sonny and the Sunliners kind of introduced more horns to this sound, but it was mostly organ and guitar.
Another interesting thing is, I think it's Sal's dad is like an official old school lowrider soul-y dude. You know, like he's
Like you look at these guys.
like me,
A musician, you mean, or just as like a
collector. He's like one of the OGs, you know. And even funnier when we were in California, when the Ultimates opened up for them, they got in a fight with the sound guys on stage because the sound guys were other Latino dudes who basically were like, fuck you in the sound. Like over the monitors.
Seriously?
While they're on stage performing. And it just turned into this I think somebody kicked the monitor and fucking they like cut their set short. Yeah, it was pretty fucked up.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool
I
record.
really want to hear the whole record.
Oh, this, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Is
That's
that?
the one.
Oh, the one.
That's the one that I
was the
really
one-
like.
That's very Motown. That
Yeah.
one's very Motown.
Yeah, that's the one that I really dig so far. I'm excited to see it. They're coming in November.
Yeah.
I think the 9th they're coming to the Fillmore.
Yeah, November 9th. Let's find out about your mystery record.
Oh, the mystery
record.
record. So it's not so much of a mystery anymore. When I first found it, okay, so you'll see it's on a white label, right? I had to make this because I've only ever touched a real copy once. And I had to sign a contract. I used it to DJ in New Orleans, and I had to sign a contract. If I lost it, I'd pay $2,000 for it. And then I had to give it back to the guy. And then I had somebody call me randomly. I had no idea who he was, and he said, "I have that record. It cost three. That's all he said. It cost $3." And I didn't think anybody knew what this was, so I sent the guy $300, and he sent it right back to me, and he was like,
3,000.
"That's $3,000." I was like,
That's amazing.
"All right," but
He just sent the money back.
here's the interesting thing. When I first opened the store, I was doing work with Arctic Records and Jamie Guyton, and I was in their tape catalog, and I found they had a spreadsheet, and I used to just go by keywords, and I found, I put in soul and to see whatever came up, because they had a lot of Dwayne Eddy. They had a whole bunch of stuff I can eliminate by not saying soul. So this came up, and this said, "Sonny Fulton, you ain't got no soul." And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? And so I told the guy to pull it. We transferred it. I listened to it, and it was phenomenal. It knocked my socks off. It's up-tempo, funky, not like 70s funk, like 60s funk, but with like a bluesy guitar on top. It's incredible.
Some stats
So
here.
I'm going through the guy that I borrowed the record, released the record from. I was going through his boxes of records, his personal collection at his house, and a record popped up that said, "You ain't got no soul," but it didn't say Sonny Fulton. So I was like, what the fuck is this? And it said Bobby Illinois Tucker. And I was like, oh shit, what is it? So I put it on, and it's the same song. So I had the tape that says Sonny Fulton on it. I found a record that has the same song, but it says Bobby Illinois Tucker. Bobby Tucker played the guitar on The Horse by Cliff Nobles. And there's an amazing video on YouTube of The Horse live, and Bobby Tucker's on the guitar playing.
And it was on Arctic?
Leoso. So the only other thing that came out, there's 3 records on Leoso. It's CBL 1 and 2, which is a Sonny Fulton record. Then there's Finger Lickin' Chicken, which was actually a big funk record in England by the Radars, which is Sonny Fulton's group. And then this is the one that just never shows up. So this is Sonny Fulton produced. It's Bobby Illinois Tucker.
Speed.
45. And it's called You Ain't Got No Soul.
And it's 3. Nice. This record is 3.
And you pressed this.
I had to press it because I wanted to spin it. I'll tell you the New Orleans story, which was really fun. Yeah.
What is that?
That's dank. They're out of tune. It sounds great.
Is that baritone?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
So he goes through all the dances. He says they do the jerk and the swim everywhere. Got no soul. And the best part about it is that halfway through, he flips and he says, "I'll show you what soul is."
That horn
Here's
is
the-
really out of tune.
Here's the dances.
What is it? Is it a saxophone?
It's
Yeah.
a baritone. Or maybe it is a tenor. Just played real low.
Listen to his voice here.
Nice.
As far as I've been told. And then he says, "I'll show you what soul is." This is what I'm talking about.
Nice. That horn is so out.
Oh my God. It's like, that guy's just like,
Yeah, I know.
Guitar's killer. And that's good. He's the guitar player.
Yeah. I know, it's yeah. So the New Orleans gig was really fun. It was the Ponderosa Stomp. It was this guy, Dr. Ike, throws this. It was annual birthday party for himself. Wedding. I think it was a wedding party for himself that turned into a yearly thing, where he brought all of his idols, all the people that he had wanted to listen to. He put them all together in one show. So the very first time I went to Ponderosa Stomp, it was the Carl Perkins Band on the first night at the Rock and Bowl Midtown. The second night, I walked in, and I shit you not, I verified this with Ike. It was the Meters, backed by Sun Ra's Orchestra.
What?
And then
That's ludicrous.
they were like they play for an hour, then they get really low, and Ike gets up on stage, and he's like, "Guys, you guys enjoying the show?" We're all like, "Yeah." He's like, "We happen to have special guests in the house, Fred Wesley and Maceo Parker."
What?
And they jumped on stage with orchestra behind them and the Meters playing.
That's stupid.
It was insane. So that was the Ponderosa Stomp. I went every year for like 8 years.
Damn.
And then towards the end, my friend Bryce down there started booking. The opening night party was called the Hip Drop, and it was at DBA on Frenchman Street, and it was like 30 to 40 DJs, and you had 20 minutes. That was your set. To play whatever. Nice. So he asked me to come down and play. That's 7:45s, and that was the $2,000 borrow it from, because I had to play this song first. And what ended up happening was I was up maybe 22 hours. I had like taken a 5 a.m. flight, stayed up all day. I was supposed to go on at 8 at night, but then it got pushed to midnight, and then it was 1 o'clock when I went on. And the guy before me who DJ'd was like really left field electronic, really weird noise stuff. And the crowd just like left. And so I was like, fuck, I'm so tired. I had 20 minutes. I waited all day to pay 20 minutes. And I was like, fuck it. You know what? Just go on. And
Put on that saxophone.
so what I had planned was 7:45s that went from this to, it was all Philly stuff, and it went from this to rockabilly to soul, to like deep soul and funk.
You're gonna take everybody on a journey.
That was it. 7 minutes or 7 records or whatever. 20. No, I don't know what it was. 7 records, 20 minutes to take them from like soul to rockabilly, and like the tempo would rise the whole time. So we get to the last song. I forget what it was, and I look up, and the crowd was packed.
Oh, nice.
Floor was dancing. Like it must have been a wave off of Frenchman Street, and they just came in and heard like loud. And the Bryce, the promoter, was like, "Just keep going." And I was like, "Okay." And luckily, I had like maybe another 10 records in that. Yeah, I had another 10 records, and I dropped Helene Smith, "You Gotta Be a Man," which is this hard funk song from Miami, but put out on a Philly label. And the crowd went crazy. It was a really fun night.
Nice.
And then I fucking crashed the fuck out.
Right? Seriously. Well, awesome, man. I think this was really cool. I mean, dude, like I can't believe you brought those. I can't believe like you came out of nowhere with the SoCal Soldy stuff, man. Like that's so cool. And then of course this is exactly what I knew you were gonna do is bring some of these things. And then it was great to see, you know, these new like the 60-year journey that you put us on there, which was yeah, right.
Oh, no, 60.
60-year journey. I mean, like super awesome. And I definitely like that Billy Bragg. That was totally cool.
Yeah,
so
that was cool, yeah.
and so I really enjoy this like little format and you know like what we did here, so hopefully you guys will enjoy it too. Let us know in the comments what records you liked and what you didn't like. Definitely check out Forever Changes in Phoenixville. If you ever get a chance while you're here, come and meet Shawn, and maybe Max will be here, or maybe Doug will be here, maybe I'll be here, I don't know, who knows. But
Instagram, forever.changes, Facebook, Forever Changes, whoever does that. Out here at 28 South Main Street in Phoenixville. So here's the deal with Phoenixville. We have a big street with all these restaurants. That's not Main Street. That's called Bridge Street. Main Street is the other street, so just don't get confused. Come see me, 28 South Main. Yeah, man. That's what I got. Cool.
and then Doug, you have any like Instagram or anything like that you want people to follow?
Yeah, at Doug Paul OD on Instagram, and I play with Ron and the Hip Tones, and also a group called York Street Hustle, doing soul and Motown. But yeah, just keep your eyes out. York Street Hustle, Doug Paul OD, Doug O'Donnell, whatever. I'm out there.
Very cool. And then of course, Ron and the Hip Tones. Check them out. We're gonna have a link for the Bandcamp there. Also, a link to the Ron and the Hip Tones documentary that you should definitely watch, the Philadelphia Soul Story, and also the review of the new 45 that just came out, Tear on My Chin.
Right.
And then
all that stuff.
Any other work?
Yeah, I mean, Love Records PHL is my handle now. Yeah, so the Brewerytown Records, that's the other one, and Brewerytown Records is kind of the reissue label, putting that stuff out. Anything that actually is being put out, so Ron and the Hip Tones, plus the older stuff that I've been reissuing. So
Nice. You're coming out with that 1984, right? There's a Wrinkle in Our
yeah,
Time.
so 1984 came out, a Germantown psych band. They put out one single back in 1970, I think, and we reissued that. We've been working on Ray Sharp and the Soul Set. We've been working on stuff. Just follow us on there.
Yes.
There's a lot.
You'll be finding out more about him. So, all right, cool, man. Well, hopefully everybody liked this. And if you like this video, you're probably gonna like some others on the channel, like this one right here. Definitely go check that out. And we will see you guys on the next one. All right. Good times.
Let's get the hell out of here.
All right.